The Islamic concept of the afterlife carries a tremendous weight. When classical scholars describe the journey after death, they detail the absolute finality of divine judgment, the trials of the grave, and the ultimate reality of either paradise or hellfire. The scale of eternity can feel overwhelming. It is easy to assume that surviving a judgment of this magnitude demands a life of continuous physical devotion, that securing salvation requires a believer to completely abandon the world for prayer. However, classical traditions describe a system where complete, infinite spiritual security is built directly into the fabric of an ordinary, busy life. Consider this widely shared social media post detailing 5 specific practices. It outlines brief actions that carry massive divine guarantees. By tracking a single 24-hour cycle, we can see exactly how these 5 specific recitations link together. When performed at designated times, they interlock to construct a defensive perimeter around a believer. Securing eternal safety relies on the strategic, consistent application of these divine promises over time. The cycle begins at Fajr, the dawn prayer. As the day breaks, the believer initiates their first layer of spiritual defense. Immediately following both the Fajr and the sunset Maghrib prayers, they repeat a specific supplication exactly 7 times. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-jannah and Allahumma ajirni min an-nar. This translates to asking Allah for paradise and explicitly seeking protection from the fire. Looking at the source text, the reward answers the request exactly. The document states that reciting this 7 times grants absolute protection from hellfire. From that morning invocation, the day moves forward, structured entirely around the fard, the obligatory daily prayers. These required milestones introduce a second layer of defense. The practice involves reciting Ayatul Kursi immediately after finishing every single obligatory prayer. Ayatul Kursi is a single verse, yet according to the text, taking the few seconds to recite it after your daily obligations results in a guarantee of entry into Jannah, or paradise. By attaching these brief recitations to existing milestones like dawn, dusk, and the obligatory prayers, a believer builds robust spiritual armor without needing to pause their worldly life. Beyond those fixed milestones, there are the spaces in between. The day is filled with flexible moments where spiritual dividends are earned at any time. The third practice requires reciting Surah Ikhlas, a short chapter defining the oneness of God, just 3 times at any point during the day. The effort to reward ratio here is significant. This minor recitation, taking less than a minute, grants the same spiritual benefit as reading the entire holy book from cover to cover. Then there is the 4th practice, a steady repetition of the phrase, Subhan Allah wa bihamdihi, which translates to, Glory be to Allah, and His is the praise, recited 100 times daily. Returning to the source text, the stated outcome of this 100-fold devotion is the forgiveness of all accumulated sins. Eventually, the day winds down. The believer prepares for sleep, entering a state of temporary unconsciousness and vulnerability. It is right here, before closing their eyes, that they engage the final safeguard by reciting a 30-verse chapter known as Surah Mulk. In Islamic tradition, this specific chapter acts as an active, fierce intercessor. It defends the person who recites it, saving them from the punishment of the grave. This places a definitive seal on the 24-hour cycle. Even while asleep, the believer remains protected by the words they recited while awake. A review of the completed cycle shows how these practices integrate into a single day. In 24 hours, using only a few minutes total, the believer has secured a guarantee of paradise, activated protection from hellfire and the grave, and erased their sins. Curious, it naturally raises a question of scale. How is it possible that mere seconds of devotion can command infinite, eternal rewards? The theological framework points to a design of divine mercy. Salvation is structured to be accessible to everyone, regardless of their daily obligations, rather than being gatekept by hardship. The power of these 5 daily habits comes from the believer's lifelong consistency in performing them. Quiet, steadfast daily habits shield a person from the break of dawn until the depths of the night, building a lasting spiritual security.